Hello and welcome back to the Engerati studio. We're now joined by Nandini, who is the General Manager of Europe, EMEA, let's say it, let's use the acronym of Opower. And Nandini, firstly, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
And we have been listening to a lot of talk in the studio around customer engagement. And in my mind, customer engagement is one dimension. Behavior change is a whole different ball game. You can be engaged with your customer, but you may not necessarily have any behavior change. Now, I know about the work that Opower has done in the US and things like that. Tell us a little bit about the sort of data science behind facilitating behavior change and turning some of those dials.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So it's a great question. And there are a lot of players who will claim to be active in the space of customer engagement. But when someone says to me, what's unique about Opower? The way I like to describe it is think about Google-like data meets Apple-like user design meets Amazon-like customer experience for the utility industry. There's different levels of consumer engagement. But when you're engaged with your iPhone, with your Apple, that's true engagement. When you're on Amazon, that's an interesting, platform in itself. When you think about loyalty, and that's been missing from the utility industry, and Opower is showing that opportunity exists. So we have a customer engagement platform that can deliver a number of solutions: energy efficiency, demand response, customer care, as well as smart grid enablement. And I think is the DNA behind what we do is behavioral science, what really motivates and nudges people to take action. So without boring you, but our company was founded on a social science experiment. About a decade ago, very long, hot summer in the US, and PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, didn't have enough energy to go around. And so a very famous behavioral scientist, Bob Cialdini, was enlisted. Bob, we don't have enough energy to go around. Please help us. So he took students and he essentially said, let's put messages on all their doors and see which messages resonate. So there was a series of messages. Please switch off your air conditioning at night, turn on the fan, you'll save money, $60 this summer. There was an environmental message. Please switch your air conditioning at night, turn on the fan, you'll be reducing the carbon footprint. Third message, please switch off your air conditioning at night, turn on the fan, you'll just be a great citizen. We're under severe constraints. Lo and behold, Adam, none of those had any impact, week on week on week. And there was a final message that was quite simply, your neighbors are switching off their air conditioning at night and turning on the fan. And what did you see? A 6% drop in consumption.
Sorry, 6%?
6% drop in.
Right.
None of the others had any impact, but this one did. Because why? We care about what other people are doing. We want some context. When you get an energy bill and it says 100 pounds, 15,000 kilowatt, you don't know, is that good, bad, indifferent? But when I tell you, hey, relative to similar homes to you, you use 54% more. Do you want to know what they're doing? That's where the behavioral science comes into what Opower does.
And that's really interesting as well, isn't it? Because and I love those sort of stories, because what you're also saying, and which is the other angle, is this is not just sort of a one-size-fits-all message. And so that was a very early experiment where and I can see why it was done, probably not using digital technology, just post-its on doors or something like that. And that particular message turned the dial. You guys have now been going for 10 years. What are the other sort of messages that are now sort of causing change?
Yeah. So we've only been going six years. Yeah. We work with 90 utilities in 7 countries. Interestingly, the idea here is there are many technologies and many companies that essentially want you to control your energy from the supermarket. I don't have time to control my energy from the supermarket. The big game that we've seen has the most impact is engage people in energy. Allow them to understand it. Make it transparent.
How do you do that? It's pretty boring, isn't it? Energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just nailed it, right? The average human being spends somewhere between 6 or 9 minutes a year thinking about their energy consumption. But the average human being, spends 96 hours on Facebook. 96 hours. That's 8 hours a month. And how do we do it? Well, these are the lessons we've learned. It's not about data. It's about insights. You have to convey. If you've got data, you've got to make insights. If you've got insights, you've got to make them personalized. Don't expect Adam to go to a utility portal. Push it to his phone. I'm sure when you landed in Amsterdam today or yesterday, you basically said, hey, your telco operator told you, welcome to Amsterdam, Holland, Netherlands, your calls will cost X. That opportunity exists in the utility space. So if you've got data, it's about insights. If you've got insights, it's about personalization. And if you've got those insights in the channel that the customer cares about, you've got to follow through. You've got to make it fun. That's where our gamification and competition and follow through, a positive message from the utility. You're doing great this month. That's what reinforces it.
And so let me ask you this. Why doesn't the utility sector have that skill set already in-house? And then looking at, surely that is something that is so important, customer relationship. Why would you rent that out effectively to another company?
Right, it's a great question, and I think many utilities do have that capability. Our competition is really the utility itself. 5 years, 10 years from now, every utility around the world will have this. You wouldn't go to a bank today that didn't have a website.
Or internet banking.
Or ability to take a photo of your check and upload it. There was a time that not all banks had this. And it's really around focus. What we found is utilities have been impressed that in 6 years, we've done this 90 times. We're able to localize, put this up in 6 to 9 months. And when it's not about Opower's brand, it's all branded as though it's coming from the utility.
Right.
So there's speed, agility, experience, multi-channel, it all fits together. And frankly, utilities are coming from a heavy, commoditized engineering background. This is difficult to do. And so this is why they partner with us. We are B2B2C. We don't go sell hardware to anybody. We don't go direct to the customer. All we do all day, every day, is say, how do you make energy compelling? I'll give you an example. When we thought about a social media application, Facebook, I would never go on Facebook and say, hey, Adam, this is how much energy I use. Let me compete with you. It's just probably not my generation. But if you turn that into, on behalf of the utility, a school against school competition, when the winning school in West London gets free solar panels and a day back at utility headquarters where they're promoting engineering skills for women, I become a really competitive mum. So, it's about that we are able to imagine on behalf of our clients.
So, let me ask you this then. We have got a normal business model. You've got a commodity. You sell as much of it at the highest price you can possibly get. Yet here we are talking about a business telling its customers to buy less of what they sell.
Yeah. You sound like my dad. He says you work for a company that tells utilities to try and sell less energy to their customers. Doesn't make sense.
But I think it's an important conversation to put across that why is it that this is important now, and what's in it for the utility, which sometimes gets lost when we just talk about, this is what this is how we need to do it.
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. An efficient customer is a more engaged and happy customer. If they're efficient, they're trying to think about ways to save, they look at their bill, they're more engaged. They're not just thinking, it's on direct debit. They're more engaged, and therefore good things happen. There is a business case around efficiency. If they are engaged and happy, they will stick with you. They will buy other products from you. They will engage in your surveys. They will listen to your multi-channel. They'll spend more minutes online. That you will be able to use the savings in other ways, an efficiency debate. You'll be able to understand in a territory on a really cold day what are your consumers doing so that you can actually use your nighttime electrons and your storage capability in different ways. So there's a whole range of utility outcomes you can inflect by listening to the customer, gaining information about the customer. And for the utility, particularly in our markets in the UK, you can't afford to be a commodity supplier anymore. You've got to be an energy services company of the future. And if you want to know that Adam likes tea and Nandini likes coffee, you've got to understand them so that you can provide services of the future. Otherwise, you'll get disintermediated.
Okay. So as we're coming to the end of our time in the studio, let me ask one other question, which is, and you've just touched on it. When you say utility, it takes different shapes and different sizes depending where you are geographically and so on. Why would a utility that is in a market where there is no competition in terms of retail competition between utilities, what is their motivator for engaging with the customer? And my question comes with two parts. So that's the first part, and then the second part is, do you actually need a retail market in order to get more of this customer engagement adoption going on?
It's a great question. So, we started in the US, which is a regulated market in the main, and Opower is the mechanism to show reliable, sustainable, cost-effective energy efficiency. Every utility has to show their state regulator predictable, reliable energy savings. Even in a market where you don't have a choice of provider, they need to engage their customer, because consumers don't compare their experience with another utility. They compare their experience with other consumer experiences. If I get this from my bank, if I get this from my telecom provider, why do I get this from my utility? This was the same 15 years ago. You and I, we were just British Telecom. Today, we purchase multimedia applications, right, through our phone, and we don't hesitate to think about that. So that's one. Two, I think, this is, and so even in monopolistic markets, whether it's energy efficiency, whether it's smart grid enablement, whether it's just engaging the customer more, because you need to keep them. Because at the end of the day, as a utility, you cannot inflect the price of oil or gas. You cannot inflect the weather. All you have is your customers and their data. It's all you have is relationships. And then to your question, I think it's a really pertinent question. Whilst we've been retail heavy in the United States, as we've now moved to France and the UK and more countries to come, there's a conversation around the distribution side of the business and the retail side of the business. In Europe, smart meters are owned by the distribution side. We don't have a relationship with them, right? So there has to be a dialogue around the retail side of the business, the distribution side of the business.
And that exposing the data to one and the other in order to use a solution like yours. Yeah. So, final question. I know I said the other one was, but it's not, because I've just thought of another one. What are the biggest differences that you're finding between the US market and going into Europe? I mean, just to say, you've probably touched on one, that there's no standard about who owns what and do that. But just as what are some of the biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges? They're not really challenges, in ways, but if you think about what's common, people are dissatisfied with their utility, they expect more information, they want it multi-channel, and they want it in a personalized format that gives them context. But actually, to do that, there are differing objectives, right? When you have choice of provider, in the US you don't have choice of provider. Yeah. You've got to make this unique to your brand, you've got to differentiate beyond price. You've got to localize the product so that it's meaningful. A tip, give customers tips, savings, offers that make sense in France,
or selling
in Italy.
them smart appliances or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And engaging the market in true local context. That's really, but we've been able to do that. And we've been able to do that on time and to good results.
On time, on budget is what everybody likes to hear, don't they?
Right.
Nandini, thanks very much for joining us in the studio. Thank you as well for watching, and we have done a number of webinars with Opower, and if our site is doing what it's supposed to be doing, there'll be a whole bunch of links next to this video somewhere where you can watch some more detailed presentations around specific areas. We've got another one coming up on the 7th of November. We're doing another one with
the
you guys.
Universal Truths.
Yeah, exactly. That should be a great one as well. So if you're watching this before the 7th, join us live. If you're watching it after the 7th, watch it on demand. Simple. Thank you again for watching.